Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Silver Tears Tarot and welcome to today's reading. So, yesterday we saw a little bit of that triggered feeling and having like energy that was bursting at the seams. And it was kind of interesting because their tendency at this point was to just sort of run away and dive deep down under it. So, that's even what we looked at when we got into the extended. I'll do a couple of comments on what came out in the extended for those who didn't have a chance to watch it, just to kind of connect, because I think what we need to do today is look at where things stand, where things are sort of shaping up, because there's a situation of a lot of change happening in the energy, a lot of change happening with them, with their realizations about their life, about their third party situations, and just a lot that may be kind of coming in for a landing. So that's what we're watching right now. We're going to go ahead and jump in. It'll be a general reading for this collective. So if this is something that resonates for you, maybe take a look at some of the other readings because they've all kind of led us to this point. They're very much all connected. If it's been helpful for you, hit like so that other people can get help with it as well. And we'll find other people within the collective. And then I guess let's just go ahead and jump in. This is a reading that this morning's meditation really just kind of told me I wanted to do an extended to yesterday's extended. So we're looking to see first what the energy is around them, what the energy is between you, what the energy is in the background, that energetic and emotional backdrop. We've got the Hermit in the reverse. I sense that that is resistance to messages that want to come. So there's wisdom that every time your person dips into this wisdom, they have a tendency to find some things that they maybe don't feel so comfortable with. They're coming to the realization that something does have to change with the World card here. And then also with the Nine of Wands, um, there's this feeling of resistance to the message. So the resistance to the message is really significant, and I'm getting that here with the Hermit as well. New information has come out. It's time for them to get to the end of something here with the World card, but they're not feeling like going all the way to the solution for whatever reason. There's something here that wants them, or that they want to not hurry to the next step. There's very much a sense of not letting something end. Feels like the Death card in reverse, only it took three cards to say it. It's like the Death card in reverse, where there's this feeling of change needs to happen, something needs to go so that something new can come in, but they are incredibly reluctant to let that something go. That's this energy. This energy is just very strong in that. There is a desire to feel love, but a feeling like they are blind to it or incapable of feeling it from within themselves. That's what I get with the Seven of Swords. Almost like they deflect that feeling of love, and then they so desperately want it, and yet they have such a tendency to deflect it, to push it away, to make it something that they suddenly aren't going to have as much access to. They remove their own access to something that they desperately wish to have. And the tricky bit is they have an increasing awareness of this fact. An increasing awareness of it, they have a tendency to want to hide it from themselves. And so one of the things that we saw in yesterday's extended was that they would really like to escape some of what's happening in their life right now. They've got some things that they want to escape, but they're not really allowing themselves to get out of it. So the King of Swords came up twice in the upright for us, talking about, oh no, you don't. You come back here. You're going to make some changes, And it comes in because they are aware of the actions that they're perpetrating. They're aware of the way these things feel, the way these things look, not necessarily on the same level that you are, but on a level that they've not historically been. So they've usually they've had this kind of this cycle that they would go through, and they were blissfully unaware of a lot of elements of it, where now they're a lot more aware of some of those things that have maybe transpired in the past. They have a different view on them. With the high priestess here, this is about messages, secrets that are coming out, and it's like they almost have to not care about some of the secrets that are coming out, but instead we see them having a tendency to be very drawn into themselves, having a tendency to want to hide. There continues to be this tendency to want to hide in this energy, and it's like it's a reflex for them. They have a tendency to do that. They like to get out of view. They like to not be seen when something bad starts to happen. On the other hand, I think this is like it's a premature reaction. So what they're going to discover is that some of what is bothering them, so they're being very much impacted by all of that. Four of Swords in the reverse action that we were seeing yesterday. They're being aware of what they haven't resolved within themselves. I think they're going to be pleasantly surprised at the progress that they've made. And sometimes they seem aware of that progress. Other times they kind of hide behind it, don't exactly know how to use it. In this case, I think it's a matter of it's going to do them some good, but it's going to surprise them a little bit, that it does them some good. So again, we've got a person who doesn't want to walk into a situation that they can't just as easily get back out of. So you'll see that tendency not to commit, that tendency to want to own the situation, to control it, to set out the rules with the Emperor card here. It's a controlling version of the Emperor, and I feel like in a lot of cases that's the version that we see come out in these readings. So I swear it's not always that way. If you get a personal reading from me, you may see some variation on the way that these cards come out, because the way that they come out in personal readings is a little bit more unique to the energy, but the way that they come out in the collective, it's kind of this collective energy, and so we have a tendency to see some of the same patterns as the way the cards come out and want to be represented. One of those patterns that I'm maybe less fired up about is the fact that the Emperor seems to be all about control. This King of Cups, though, also having a hard time finding the balance between allowing emotion. So the King of Cups has emotion and allows emotion, but only to a certain point. There's this balance that needs to be found between finding, like being able to access that emotion, being able to have the emotion but not have it seem like it's out of control. There's a need to keep that in the sense of control, make sure that things never look like they're out of control. That is very important. But one of the other things that we saw, and this is something that's coming out for both you and your person here in the last couple of readings, is this Two of Wands in the reverse. There's something that needs to be revisited as far as a value. It's a value. So remember when it came out for you, it was like it's going to shock you that you're going to have this value to question that you maybe just never considered questioning before. Not so much that you can't make the shift, or even that you can't make the shift very globally across your life, just that it's going to kind of surprise you that, oh, I never even really thought about that as something I might need to change or change my views on. But once you see it, I think you'll be pretty solidly in the new vein of thinking, in the new way of thinking. Your person may or may not adopt it as quickly, but I think this applies really to both of you. So some of this is very shared energy. You may see yourself in it a little bit, but I was focusing primarily on your person as I was doing that piece. So let's see where they are today. We saw them wanting to make movement, not sure what that movement needed to be. Very much seeking the balance and feeling like they aren't sure how to do that. So again, it's having some idea of where they want things to go, but not really knowing how to get there. Yesterday we were talking about excuse me, making a movement, needing to move from where they were, but not having a real good idea about where to go. And one of the things that they were doing was kind of diving deep into their emotions so that they could escape some of what was going on out there on the surface. There was there's lessons that we saw they were still working on with their third party, that they're feeling done. But the energy of that third party is not done with them yet. There, that King of Cups did come back. Okay, so we have the Temperance card in the reverse, talking about that balance they feel like they need to have. The Page of Wands in the reverse, talking about that tendency that they have to shrink away from something that feels like they can't automatically win it. Also, a growing feeling of integrity that they've got to balance with this ability to be incredibly charismatic that they have. So they can get pretty far with that charisma, and they need to make sure that they're doing things for the right reasons. This is part of what comes out in them. It's part of what's under the surface when you're seeing that slower reaction too. And remember, this is a person who's feeling a little bit down at this time. We still see them feeling a little bit down. And maybe they ultimately make some decisions that lead them to stability, but right now they're feeling overwhelmed and they're behaving in a way that's a little on the self-destructive side. They are making changes, or they are making decisions that create changes in their daily life. So these are things that could be work related, could be more household related, but they are things that change the actual like architecture of their daily life. And they're having to sit in it. Now, here's a lesson that we've been seeing since right when I first came out on YouTube. I was seeing it a ton in the readings, and it was about learning to become comfortable in a situation where it is anything but comfortable. And this is a lesson that has come out for you numerous times. It's coming out for your person again. And it's one that feels like it just never stops with you. There's definitely a need to move into a new place, but there's also a need to kind of reframe how this feels, this energy of things slowing down and holding you in a place that is uncomfortable. There's something about that that is incredibly beneficial because it gives you an opportunity to learn the lessons. And the way that your person has been kind of responding to that has been, it triggers them, they check out. There's a tendency for them to kind of emotionally check out of the situation, because they can't necessarily control it. And so they stop regarding it as part of the situation in some way. And that's part of that triggered decision making that I think we were seeing yesterday on their part. And that tendency toward needing to control the situation to the point where they were maybe making some rash decisions. Of course, the difference here was their awareness of their tendency to do so. And that's what makes this not the usual cycle. That's what causes this to be a little bit different this time. So we have a Five of Wands. It does continue to be a struggle for them. There is change that is happening. They're basically not being given a choice in this, though. With the change that's happening in your person's situation right now, it's like they are, we talked about them wanting to avoid certain types of change because they're uncomfortable, and it played out with this resistance here that we were seeing. So in this case, though, here's a person who doesn't have a ton of choice about the fact that these changes are going to occur, and it's really more about how are you going to reframe this for yourself so that you can continue living your life in a way that works for you. But we see them not necessarily being able to create that reframe of the situation right away. And so watch for that to be true for you as well. This feels like not necessarily something that you share with them, but a little bit of a contagious energy. It's probably, you just need to keep thinking about it in order to get to a place that makes it a little bit easier for you to get by without twisting the truth or lying to yourself. That's the tricky part. So what did I drop here? I dropped cards in multiple places. All of them were face down. That's always kind of interesting to me. It seems like it's greater than half of the time. You would think that they would fall face down 50% of the time, but that's not how it works. Not what I've noticed anyway. Okay, so with the Six of Pentacles, Six of Pentacles is about equal give and take, and it's about a realization more than anything of the fact that this has not been a situation of equal give and take. It's about the realization that going forward, that's what would be required, and it feels like a big sense of obligation for them, one that they don't feel ready for. They don't feel like they have the energy in them to give you what you need in this area. That's something that kind of really sticks out right now. They feel a shortcoming in that, but they also, I think, are feeling like they need to reassess what they're using their energy for, because they're like, hold on a minute, this is the sort of thing that I should be able to deliver. You know, this is something that I should be able to do for someone. And so there's an additional sort of disappointment with themselves. And I feel like they maybe make some rash decisions and put that result in potential communication. So swords, as much as they are logic, they are also cards of communication. Here with the Queen of Swords in the reverse, I feel like this is almost part of that self-destructive tendency that they have that results in a little bit of a lack of impulse control. And so this is where they may send messages that ordinarily they might have composed those messages, but in this energy, we could see them actually feel the impulse to send them and be unable to put that impulse down. Part of that is a really good thing. It's moving to a place where they're going to be able to talk a little bit more about their emotions, display a little bit more of their emotions. I feel like this is what I want us to get into. And maybe we even take these cards specifically. I'll think about that. I'll think about that, about whether I want to use these cards specifically or just the concepts that they represent. So this is them moving to a new place, that they have this sort of lack of impulse control, but instead of getting them into trouble, it has the potential to get them into a more an open place that they turn out quickly to realize isn't actually so bad. So I'd like to get a little bit more understanding of what that is. Is that theoretical? Is that likely to happen? How likely? Like, what energy is out there for it? So it's that Ace of Cups and the Devil, I think, is what we're going to look at as we get into the extended, because that Devil is in the reverse, which means they have gotten on top of something that was creating a challenge to them, and that was exerting control over them. So as much as you see them struggling, I almost see them coming out of part of this struggle almost by accident, and discovering some things. I'm curious to see what that turns into. So that's what we're going to look into when we get into the extended, this emotion and something that they've gotten past. For you, though, let's go ahead and look into the you portion of the reading. This is the lessons for you as they relate to what else is on this table, but really it's that you guys are working through a bunch of lessons. Rather than do a lessons reading for you periodically, it's like we devote some time to it every single reading so that we can see what it is that you need to be focusing on. And since these readings come out pretty much every day, it's an opportunity for you to focus on it every day. So we have the Nine of Pentacles. One of the things that comes out here first, and I was just thinking this a little bit ago, was make sure you realize how far you've come. You have really got this fabulous energy right now. You have the Nine of Pentacles. You have the Empress, both of them coming out in the upright. It's a beautiful energy to be in. And this is something that you can kind of rise above anything else that might be happening in your situation right now. I mean, I feel like the only thing that hasn't come out to define you yet has been the Queen of Pentacles, that I'm also feeling in this energy. Oh, you're getting something organized. You're getting something straightened out. So remember in yesterday's energy, we saw this a little bit scary energy of something that was, and it didn't seem scary once we dug into it, but it was something that was a value essentially that you were going to be challenged on, and you were going to realize that you didn't exactly expect to be challenged in this particular way. So there's going to be a little bit of work that you have to do to redefine yourself a little bit. And there is going to be a tendency for you to look back and say, where have I made this mistake? Where have I, you're going to see something that needs to change, and you're going to say, oh gosh, what has this done to me so far? Now, the key is going to be to look forward rather than to look back. With the King of Pentacles here in the reverse, spending too much time on that is going to create doubt in you that doesn't really work to anyone's benefit. Remembering that there may have been some things in the past that when you run across them again, you may want to correct something. You might want to say, hey, last time I saw you, I said these things, and I don't want that to be what you remember. I want to go ahead and make a change to that. The strength to be able to do this, the grace to be able to communicate, that's really what's kind of coming your direction with regard to this. So, it's a beautiful change, but it feels like it does happen relatively quickly. And so I feel like what happens for you is the initial shock, realizing that you're going to have to make a shift that you weren't really considering making. That's where most of the surprise happens. As you start to think through it, the shifts that happen in your life start to become a little bit simpler. I feel like they're not going to create as much of a shift as you might, or a like a hiccup in the way that you live your life as you might think. Here with the Six of Wands, it does help you more than you might realize. So even though your shift may be an easy one to make, oh, I realize this now. And so now every time that decision touches my life, I just automatically make this other one because now my eyes have been open to something. Like the benefit is going to be greater than you realize. That is what I would say here. Um, it's almost like, hey, I figured out a new way to not waste water, or something that resolves a problem or has an impact. There's something that has an impact here, and it's almost effortless compared to the amount of good that you do with this. Now, it also exposes for you some things that you may feel like need to change. And so I know we talked about how a lot of the lessons that you might have coming your direction at this time are easier to learn, they're more positive. It doesn't mean that you don't still get pushed into learning those lessons by things that are relatively uncomfortable. So be aware that some of this shifting in the values, it's going to bring up some memories that bring up some uncomfortable questions for you. I don't think you sit with those for too long. And even if, so this is going to seem like it's hopeless, but it isn't. So there's something that comes up for you that the person that would be able to resolve this for you in an instant is for some reason unavailable to you. They could be gone from your life. It could be a grandparent that's no longer with you. It could be, there's any number of ways that this could turn out. But what ends up happening is, regardless of the fact you can't get formal closure on it, you're going to figure something out that basically cuts it off earlier on in the process, making it so that you no longer require the formal closure that you thought you needed. So where you've got something that you no longer, where you've got something that is not finished, you are going to create this closure, and it's going to feel great because basically you're going to say, oh, wait, this whole other body of information no longer applies. Therefore, I don't need closure on that. I can provide my own closure. I already know this, or something to that effect. So you have a place where you identify something that is kind of still hanging out there for you, and the beauty of it is you resolve it kind of right there on the spot. So it is still a little bit of a journey that you have to go through. You definitely are going to feel a little bit of memory that you don't necessarily love with, to jive with. But I get the sense that, like I said, you make short work of the uncomfortable portions of this. With the Hermit, you're also going to be able to generalize a little bit of that. So I think what happens here, and why this is so significant, is you've got some areas with your person that you're looking for closure, but you're about to be able to provide some of your own closure, much in the way that you do for this situation. So you're able to generalize that, and for your person, all of a sudden you're able to make some decisions with less information. But I do not think it is that simple. So you have a new perspective maybe in the situation, but it does not just automatically reset your emotions. And so when you when you do the thing with your values shifting, it happens fairly effortlessly and the emotion doesn't drive you into a difficult place. However, when you then find this closure, it lulls you into a little bit of a false sense of security because you don't feel a lot of emotion around that either. When you then are able to rationalize moving into closure, a place of closure with your person, then you think, okay, this should be no problem. It's a no brainer. But it isn't. It's not that way. There's something else that has to be resolved here, despite the fact that you've got this new perspective. So be watching for that. It's not just going to be one and done. It is going to be something about this that you really still have to resolve something within yourself. So it's not a quick process, but it is going to be a useful one, and it's going to help bring you closer to a place of good resolution with you and your person. So let's go into the extended now. We're going to go into the extended with the questions of what has this person accomplished, and we're going to use these cards. I do feel like I want to use these cards. And what is this, with the unlocking of the emotion and the almost accidental unlocking of the emotion, what is that bringing with it and how does it impact you? So that's what we'll look at when we get into the extended. I look forward to seeing you there. If you want to, the link is down below. And then otherwise, I will plan to see you again in tomorrow's reading.